A single mom cleaning a mansion found a room full of her son's photographs. Every milestone. Every moment. Then the Mafia boss appeared behind her with an impossible truth. Her late husband had been his brother, and her 6-year-old son was the last living heir to a criminal empire. The question that started it all: why is my son's photo in your house? The mansion smelled like old money and secrets. Mia pushed her cleaning cart down the marble hallway, trying not to look at the paintings on the walls. Each one probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. Maybe 10. The kind of money that could pay for Leo's school fees, his asthma medication, and still have enough left over for a winter coat that actually fit him. She checked her phone. 11:47 p.m. Leo would be asleep by now, safe with Mrs. Chen next door. The babysitter only charged $10 because Mia helped her with groceries every week. It was how poor people survived, trading favors like currency. Third floor is off limits, the head housekeeper had said during Mia's brief training that afternoon. Mr. Vieri's private wing. Don't even think about going up there. Mia had nodded. She was good at nodding, at being invisible, at doing what she was told. Single moms who cleaned houses at night didn't ask questions. They just worked. But now, standing at the base of the grand staircase with her mop bucket, she heard something that made her pause. A door, creaking open somewhere above. Then the wind. A gust that shouldn't exist inside a closed mansion, rushing down the stairs like a whispered invitation. Mia looked around. The other cleaners were in the east wing, vacuum cleaners humming like white noise. She was alone. Just check it, a voice in her head whispered. Maybe a window broke. Maybe someone needs help. She climbed the stairs, each step silent on the plush carpet. The third-floor hallway was darker than the rest of the house, lit only by dim sconces that cast long shadows. At the end of the corridor, a door stood halfway open, swaying slightly. Mia approached it slowly. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She pushed the door wider. The room was a study, all dark wood and leather chairs, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk that gleamed under a single lamp. But that's not what made Mia's breath catch in her throat. It was the wall. The entire left side of the room was covered in photographs. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. And every single one was of the same person. Her son. Mia stumbled forward, her legs moving before her brain could catch up. There was Leo as a newborn, red-faced and screaming in a hospital blanket. Leo at 2 years old, laughing in a park she'd taken him to exactly once. Leo on his first day of kindergarten, wearing the second-hand uniform she'd bought from a thrift store. Leo last month, walking home from school. Her hands trembled as she reached for a framed photo on the desk. It was the newborn picture, the one from the hospital. She'd never posted it online. Never shared it with anyone except her late husband's family, who'd wanted nothing to do with her after he died. So, how is it here? I was wondering when you'd find this room. Mia spun around so fast she nearly dropped the frame. A man stood in the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her car. His dark hair was swept back from a face that could have been carved from stone. Sharp jaw, darker eyes, and an expression that gave away nothing. But it was his stillness that terrified her most. He didn't look surprised or angry. He looked like he'd been waiting. Who are you? Mia's voice came out as a whisper. Why do you have pictures of my son? The man stepped into the room, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Mia's heart lurched. She was trapped. My name is Dante Vieri, he said calmly. And I think we need to talk about your late husband. Mia's blood turned to ice.
Luca?
What does Luca have to do with this? Dante walked to the wall of photographs, his hands clasped behind his back like he was admiring art in a museum. You knew him as a chef, didn't you? Working late nights at that restaurant in Brooklyn? He was a chef, Mia said, but her voice wavered. Luca had worked late. Too late. Sometimes he came home with bruises he said were from kitchen accidents. He was a lot of things, Dante said quietly. He touched one of the photos, Leo at age 4, building a sandcastle. But mostly, he was my brother. The room tilted. Mia grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. That's impossible. Luca didn't have any siblings. He said a lot of things to protect you. Dante turned to face her, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that wasn't cold calculation. It was grief. Old and buried deep, but there. He hid his real name.
His real family.
Because being a Vieri comes with a price, Mrs. Alvarez. And he didn't want you or your unborn child paying it. Stop, Mia's voice cracked. Stop lying. Luca was a good man. He wouldn't. He was a good man, Dante interrupted. That's exactly why he left. He wanted out. Wanted a normal life with you and the baby. His jaw tightened. But they found him anyway. Tears burned Mia's eyes. What are you talking about? Luca died in a car accident. The police said. The police said what I paid them to say. Dante's voice was soft, but it cut like a blade. Because the truth was worse. The truth was that my enemies killed my brother before he could run far enough. Before he could disappear with you. Mia sank into the leather chair, her legs giving out. This couldn't be real. Luca, the man who made her breakfast on Sundays, who sang terrible lullabies to her pregnant belly, who promised they'd grow old together, he couldn't have been lying about everything. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Dante crouched down so they were eye level. Up close, she could see the resemblance. The same dark eyes as Luca. The same straight nose. But where Luca had been warm, Dante was winter itself. Because 6 years ago, I made my brother a promise, he said. I told him I'd keep you safe. Both of you. And I've been keeping that promise every day since he died. Mia looked up at the wall of photographs. Every milestone. Every moment. He'd been watching. All this time. My son. Her voice broke. What does this mean for my son? Dante stood, straightening his suit jacket. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of an empire. It means, Mia Alvarez Vieri, that your son is the last living heir to the Vieri family. And there are people in this city who would kill him for it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was coming. Mia's world had fractured into before and after. Before she walked into that room. After she learned the truth. You're insane, she whispered, standing up on shaking legs. I'm leaving. I'm taking Leo and going where? Dante's voice wasn't threatening. It was worse, it was certain. Back to your apartment on Mitchell Street? The one with the broken fire escape and the landlord who mysteriously forgave 3 months of your rent last winter?
Mia froze.
How do you? Because I paid it, Dante walked to his desk, pulling out a folder thick with papers. I've paid a lot of things, Mrs. Vieri. Your rent. Leo's school tuition. The medical bills when he had pneumonia 2 years ago. The scholarship that suddenly appeared in your mailbox last spring. Each word hit her like a physical blow. The scholarship. She'd cried when that envelope arrived, had thanked God for finally answering her prayers. But it hadn't been God. You had no right, Mia said, her voice rising. No right to spy on us, to interfere with our lives. I had every right. Dante's calm shattered for just a moment, something raw flashing across his face. That boy has my brother's blood. My family's blood. Did you think I'd just abandon him? Let him grow up poor and unprotected while his father's killers walked free. His father is dead because of your world.
Mia shouted.
The tears came now, hot and angry. Luca died because he was a Vieri. Because of whatever sick things your family does. You're right. The admission stopped her cold. Dante set the folder down, his shoulders heavy. For a moment, he looked tired. Ancient. You're absolutely right. Luca died because of the world I built. The enemies I made. The wars I chose to fight. He looked up at her. But he also died trying to give you and Leo something I can never have. Freedom.
Choice.
A normal life. Mia sank back into the chair. Her hands were shaking. I don't understand any of this. Then let me explain. Dante pulled up a chair across from her, close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jawline.
Seat.
Please. She didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to grab Leo and disappear. But where would she go? If what Dante said was true, If he'd been protecting them all this time, then running might be the most dangerous thing she could do.
Mia stayed.
Dante leaned forward, his voice low and measured. The Vieri family has controlled this city's underground for 3 generations. Shipping, gambling, protection. My father built an empire, and when he died, it fell to me. He paused. Luca was supposed to be my second in command. My brother. My partner. But he left, Mia whispered. He fell in love, something soft crossed Dante's face. With a woman who worked at a bookstore in Brooklyn. A woman who had no idea what his last name meant. And for the first time in his life, Luca had something more important than the family. Mia remembered the bookstore. She'd worked there for 2 years before Leo was born. Luca had come in every Thursday, buying books he probably never read, just to talk to her. He told me about you, Dante continued. Said you were different.
Pure.
That you saw him as just Luca, not a Vieri. His jaw tightened. When you got pregnant, he came to me, begged me to let him out. Said he'd give up everything, his name, his inheritance, his protection, if I'd just let you and the baby live in peace. And you agreed? I told him he was a fool, Dante's voice cracked. I told him love would get him killed. That he couldn't just walk away from what we were. He looked down at his hands. I was right. But I should have helped him anyway. The weight of his regret filled the room. What happened? Mia asked quietly. He had a plan. New identities for both of you. A house in Oregon, far from New York. He was going to tell you everything after Leo was born, then disappear. Dante's hands curled into fists. But our enemies moved faster. The Calabrese family, they'd been waiting for weakness. They saw Luca's distraction as an opportunity. The car accident, Mia breathed. Wasn't an accident. Dante met her eyes. They ran him off the road 3 weeks before Leo was born. By the time I got there, he was already gone. His voice dropped to a whisper. His last words were about you. About the baby. He made me promise to keep you safe. Mia's tears fell silently now. All those years, she'd thought Luca abandoned her. That he'd died randomly, senselessly. But he'd been murdered. Executed for trying to love her. So you've been watching us, she said. All this time. From the shadows. I made sure you never knew the truth. Never had to look over your shoulder. Dante stood, walking to the window. But things have changed. The Calabrese family is making moves again. And they're asking questions about Luca's son. Mia's blood ran cold. They know about Leo? Dante turned, his expression grave. As of yesterday, yes. Someone talked. And now your son is a target. The room spun. Mia gripped the chair arms. What do we do? Her voice was barely audible. Dante's eyes hardened into something sharp and dangerous. Now? Now we stop hiding. The cemetery was older than the city itself. Mia sat in the passenger seat of Dante's black Mercedes, watching iron gates swing open as if they'd been expecting him. Maybe they had. Maybe everything in this city bent to Dante Vieri's will. You didn't have to bring me here, she said quietly. They were the first words either of them had spoken since leaving the mansion an hour ago. Yes, I did. Dante's hands were steady on the steering wheel. You think I'm lying? You think this is some elaborate scheme? I need you to see the truth. Mia wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Part of her still believed this was a nightmare she'd wake up from. That Luca had been exactly who he said he was, a chef with calloused hands and flour in his hair, not a mobster's brother with blood on his legacy. The car rolled to a stop in front of a massive marble structure. It looked like a small temple with columns and angels carved into the stone. The name above the entrance was unmistakable, Vieri. Dante got out without a word. After a moment, Mia followed. The morning air was cold. Frost clung to the grass, making everything look frozen in time. Mia wrapped her thin jacket tighter around herself. Dante noticed and shrugged off his suit jacket, draping it over her shoulders before she could protest. It smelled like expensive cologne and something else. Gunpowder, maybe. Or just danger. This way, he said. Inside the mausoleum, the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Marble walls were lined with plaques, each one bearing a name and dates. Mia's eyes skimmed them, Giuseppe Vieri. 1889 to 1957, Carmela Vieri.
1920 a 1998 Marco Vieri.
1945 to 2003, generations of Vieris, all laid to rest in this cold, beautiful tomb. Dante stopped in front of a plaque near the back. Newer than the others. The marble was cleaner, the engraving sharper.
Luca Vieri.
1985 to 2019, beloved brother. Forever remembered.
Mia S. Nisbacold.
Dante caught her arm, holding her steady. She stared at the plaque, at the names she'd known, at dates that matched exactly when Luca had died. When their whole world had shattered. No, she whispered. No, his name was Luca Moretti. The death certificate said. I changed it, Dante said quietly. To protect you. To make sure no one connected you to the Vieri family. But this is the truth, Mia. This is who he really was. She reached out with trembling fingers, tracing the letters of his name.
Luca Vieri.
It sounded foreign.
Wrong.
But it was carved in stone, permanent and undeniable. There's more, Dante said. Below the plaque was a small shelf, and on it sat a vase of fresh white lilies. Not wilted. Not old. Fresh, like they'd been placed there recently. Every Sunday, Dante said, his voice rough. For 6 years. I come here every Sunday and bring him flowers. It's the only promise I've ever kept. Mia looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who moved through the world like a king, who commanded fear and respect with a glance. He came here every week to mourn his brother. Alone. He talked about you, she whispered.
Luca.
He said he had a brother once, but that they'd grown apart. I thought he meant emotionally. He meant physically. Dante touched the plaque gently, the way you'd touch something precious. I couldn't let him go. Wouldn't approve his exit from the family. I was arrogant. Stupid. I thought I knew better than him, his voice cracked. I thought keeping him close would keep him safe. But it got him killed, Mia said softly. Yes, the word was barely a breath. They stood in silence. Above them, stained glass windows filtered weak sunlight into shades of blue and gold. Somewhere outside, a bird sang. The world kept turning, indifferent to their grief. He left something for you, Dante said finally. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. Yellowed with age, sealed with wax. He gave this to me the night before he died. Made me swear I'd only give it to you if you ever found out the truth. Mia took the envelope with shaking hands. Her name was written on the front in Luca's familiar scrawl. For Mia, if she ever needs to know. Do you want privacy? Dante asked. She nodded, unable to speak. Dante stepped outside, closing the mausoleum door behind him. Mia was alone with the dead and a letter from the man she'd loved. She broke the seal. Inside was a single piece of paper, covered in Luca's handwriting. She recognized it immediately. He always wrote in neat block letters because his cursive was terrible. My beautiful Mia, if you're reading this, then Dante kept his word. That means I'm gone, and you know the truth about who I really am.
I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Sorry I lied.
Sorry I couldn't give you the normal life you deserved. Sorry I brought danger to your door just by loving you. But I need you to know, everything else was real. The bookstore. The terrible pickup lines. The way you laughed at my jokes even when they weren't funny. Our son. Everything that mattered was true. My brother will protect you. He's harsh, cold, dangerous, but he's loyal. He'll keep you and our baby safe. Trust him, even when it's hard. Tell our son I loved him. Tell him his father wanted to be better than the name he was born with.
And Mia? Live.
Don't let my mistakes steal your future. You are always stronger than you knew. I love you. Always.
Luca.
Mia pressed the letter to her chest and sobbed. Great, heaving cries that echoed off the marble walls. She cried for Luca, for the life they should have had, for Leo growing up without a father. She cried for the lies and the truth, and everything in between. When she finally emerged, her eyes red and swollen, Dante was leaning against a tree. He looked up, and for a moment, she saw the question in his eyes. He loved you, she said hoarsely. He trusted you. Dante's jaw tightened. I know. Then help me understand. Mia stepped closer. If Leo is in danger, if people want him dead just for being born, what do we do? How do we protect him? Dante straightened, and the vulnerability vanished. In its place was the Mafia boss, the strategist, the man who'd survived in a world of wolves. We make them believe, he said, that touching your son means starting a war they can't win. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The storm was getting closer. Mia's apartment had never felt like home. It was just a place to sleep, for walls that kept the rain out, and not much else. But as Dante's car pulled onto Mitchell Street, dread settled in her stomach like a stone. Everything looked different now.
Wrong.
That car, she said suddenly, pointing to a gray sedan parked 3 doors down. It's been there for weeks. I thought it was abandoned. It's not, Dante's voice was flat. 2 men inside. They change shifts every 12 hours. Mia's blood went cold. They're watching my building. They're watching you. Dante pulled over, but didn't turn off the engine. The green pickup across the street. The woman with the dog who walks past your window every morning at 7. The delivery driver who always parks in the same spot. He looked at her. All mine. Her hands clenched in her lap. You've had people watching us? This whole time. Protecting you, Dante corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Mia's voice rose. You've been spying on my son, on me, treating us like prisoners who don't even know they're in a cage. Would you have preferred I let the Calabrese family get to you first? Dante's tone was sharp. Because that's the alternative, Mia. You think you've been safe because you're careful? Because you keep your head down? You've been safe because I had 20 men making sure of it. The truth hit her like cold water. Every close call she dismissed as paranoia. The man who'd followed her home from the grocery store, but then disappeared. The attempted break-in that ended with the intruder running away before taking anything. The car that had swerved toward Leo on his bike, but stopped just in time. None of it had been chance. Oh my God, she whispered. How long? How long have they been trying to hurt us? Dante's silence was answer enough. Mia fumbled with the door handle. I need to see Leo. I need to know he's safe. Wait, Dante grabbed her arm. Not hard but firm. Look around first. Tell me what you see. She wanted to argue, but something in his voice made her stop. Mia scanned the street with new eyes. The gray sedan. She could see movement inside now, shadows shifting. The woman with the dog wasn't walking the dog at all. The animal sat perfectly still while she stared at Mia's building. And there, near the corner, a man in a maintenance uniform, holding a toolbox but not actually fixing anything. They're everywhere, Mia breathed. Not all of them are mine, Dante said quietly. See the man with the toolbox? He showed up yesterday. I don't know who sent him, but he's not here to fix pipes. Fear wrapped around Mia's throat. We have to get Leo. Right now. Dante was already reaching for his phone. He sent a quick text, then looked at her. My people are already moving. Mrs. Chen's apartment will be cleared in 3 minutes. Leo won't even know anything happened. I want to be there, Mia said firmly. He's my son. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Respect, maybe. He nodded. Together, then. But you do exactly what I say. Understand?
Mia nodded.
They got out of the car. Immediately, the gray sedan's doors opened. 2 men in dark suits emerged, flanking them like shadows. Mia recognized the formation. She'd seen it in movies. Protection detail. The walk to her building felt like miles. Every window could hide a threat. Every parked car could explode. Mia's heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to keep moving. Inside, the stairwell smelled like mildew and old cooking oil. Normal.
Familiar.
But nothing felt normal anymore. Mrs. Chen's door was already open when they reached the 3rd floor. An older woman in a cardigan stepped out, not Mrs. Chen. This woman was younger, sharp-eyed, with something bulky under her loose shirt. A gun, Mia realized with a jolt. All clear, the woman said to Dante. The boy's asleep. Didn't hear a thing. Good. Dante turned to Mia. Pack light. 5 minutes. Only what you can't leave behind. Mia's apartment door was next to Mrs. Chen's. Her hands shook as she unlocked it. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it 12 hours ago. Leo's toys scattered on the floor. Dishes in the sink. The TV still on, playing infomercials to an empty room. She moved on autopilot. Grabbed Leo's asthma inhaler from the bathroom. His favorite stuffed elephant from the bed. She threw clothes into a backpack, underwear, jeans, Leo's school uniform.
In her bedroom, she paused.
On the nightstand sat a photo of Luca, the only one she had. He was smiling, his arm around her shoulders, both of them young and stupid and happy. She grabbed it. When she emerged, Dante was in her living room, looking at the walls. At Leo's drawings taped everywhere. Crayon stick figures labeled "Me and Mom," a lopsided house with a smiling sun. He's talented, Dante said softly. He's 6, Mia replied, zipping the backpack. He's just a kid. I know, Dante turned to face her, and his expression was harder than stone. That's why we're getting him out of here. Tonight. A sound from the hallway made them both freeze. Footsteps. Too heavy to be Mrs. Chen. Dante moved faster than Mia thought possible. He pulled a gun from inside his jacket, when had that been there, and positioned himself between her and the door. Stay behind me, he whispered. The footsteps stopped right outside her apartment. Then a voice muffled through the door. Delivery for Alvarez? Dante didn't lower the gun. We didn't order anything. Special delivery. From a friend. Something in the way he said friend made Mia's skin crawl. Dante's jaw tightened. He gestured to the woman in the cardigan, who moved silently to the window, peering out. She held up 3 fingers, then pointed down. 3 more men. Outside. They were surrounded. Dante looked at Mia, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something that terrified her more than his coldness, or his guns, or his empire.
She saw fear.
Change of plans, he said quietly. We're going out the fire escape. The fire escape is broken, Mia said. It's been broken for months.
She stopped.
The landlord had sent someone to fix it last week. A maintenance crew that worked overnight, that she'd never actually seen. You fixed it, she whispered. Dante's smile was grim. I fix a lot of things. The doorknob started to turn.
Go, Dante said. Now.
They didn't go out the fire escape. Dante made a call, spoke 3 words, Protocol 7. Now, and within 90 seconds, the hallway was filled with his men. The delivery man disappeared like smoke. By the time Mia carried a sleeping Leo down to the street, wrapped in blankets and oblivious to the danger, 6 black SUVs were waiting. That was 8 hours ago. Now Mia sat in an underground room that smelled like cigars and old violence, watching her son sleep on a leather couch in an adjoining office. Bulletproof glass separated them. Dante had assured her it was for Leo's protection, so he wouldn't hear what was about to happen. So he wouldn't hear men discuss whether he should live or die. The room was carved from stone, deep beneath a restaurant Dante owned in Little Italy.
No windows.
No natural light. Just exposed brick walls, a long mahogany table, and 13 men in expensive suits who looked at Mia like she was a problem that needed solving. Dante sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. He'd changed into a fresh suit, all black, and somehow he looked even more dangerous than before. Gentlemen, he said quietly. The room fell silent. Thank you for coming on short notice. You said it was urgent, said a man with silver hair and a scar across his cheek. The Calabrese family making moves? More than moves. They know about the boy. Dante's words dropped like stones into still water. The room erupted. Cristo. How is that possible? Who talked? Dante raised one hand, and silence returned. Mia marveled at it. The absolute control he commanded with a gesture. We have a leak, Dante continued. Someone in our organization sold information about Luca's son. That person will be found and dealt with. But right now, we have a bigger problem. He looked around the table. The boy is the last Verrier. By blood and by law, He has a claim to this family's legacy. A younger man with slicked back hair leaned forward. The kid's 6 years old. He's not a threat. Not now, said another voice. Older, raspier. But in 10 years?
12.
What happens when he grows up and wants what's his? He won't, Mia said suddenly. Every eye turned to her. She stood on shaking legs. My son doesn't even know about any of this. He thinks his father was a chef. He's never going to. You can't promise that, the silver-haired man interrupted. Blood calls to blood. My own son swore he wanted nothing to do with this life. Now he runs our operations in Newark. He looked at Dante. The boy is a liability. Marco's right. Another voice chimed in. As long as the Vieri heir lives, the Calabrese family has a target. They'll never stop coming. And every attack puts all of us at risk. Mia's heart hammered. They were talking about Leo like he was a business problem. A stock to liquidate. There are solutions, said the man with slicked back hair. His voice was too casual, too light.
Permanent solution.
The boy could disappear. An accident. A tragedy. Clean and quick, and the Vieri bloodline ends peacefully. You're talking about murdering a child, Mia said, her voice shaking with rage. I'm talking about protecting this family, he shot back. About preventing a war that could kill dozens of our children. Enough. Dante's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a blade. He stood slowly, and Mia saw something terrifying in his eyes. Something that made even these hardened criminals lean back in their chairs. Let me be very clear, Dante said softly. Anyone who touches that boy, who even thinks about touching him, will watch me burn this entire city down. I will start with your businesses, then your homes, then your families. And I will save you for last, so you can see everything you love turn to ash before I put a bullet in your head. The silence was absolute. The boy is under my protection, Dante continued. He is blood. My brother's son. And I don't care if the Calabrese family comes with an army. I will fight them all before I let harm come to him. Marco, the silver-haired man, cleared his throat. Dante, we understand your position. But you're not thinking strategically. Your emotional connection to the boy is clouding your judgment. My judgment, Dante said, turning to face him, has kept this family alive for 12 years. Has made us the most powerful organization in the city. And now you question me over a 6-year-old child. We question the risk, Marco replied carefully. The Calabrese family has been quiet for years. But if they think they can take out the Vieri heir and the bloodline, they'll throw everything at us. Every soldier, every resource. Is one boy worth that? Dante walked around the table slowly, his footsteps echoing off stone. When he reached Marco, he placed both hands on the table and leaned in close. Yes, he said simply. And if you don't agree, there's the door. Leave now, and I'll consider you retired. Stay, and you accept my decision. No one moved. Dante straightened. The boy lives. The family protects him. And we prepare for the Calabrese response. He looked around the room. I want doubled security on all our operations. Pull in our assets from Philadelphia and Boston. And send word to the Calabrese family. What word? Asked the younger man. Dante's smile was cold and sharp. That if they want the boy, they'll have to go through me first. And I've never lost a war. The meeting dissolved slowly, men filing out in quiet conversations. Mia noticed how they gave Dante space, how even these dangerous men seemed wary of him. Marco was the last to leave. He paused at the door. You know they'll come anyway. I know, Dante said quietly. And you know this could destroy everything we've built. Yes. Marco studied him for a long moment. Your brother would be proud. And horrified. He usually was. Dante's voice softened. Both at the same time. When they were finally alone, Mia approached Dante. He stood staring at the empty table, his shoulders tense. Thank you, she whispered. For protecting him. Dante turned to her, and she saw the weight he carried. The empire on his shoulders. I'm not protecting him, Dante said quietly. I'm avenging my brother. There's a difference. But Mia wasn't sure she believed him.
Mia identity slept.
She'd spent the night in the underground safe house, watching Leo's chest rise and fall, memorizing the peaceful look on his face. In sleep, he looked even younger than 6, vulnerable, innocent of the war being waged over his existence. When dawn came, not that they could see it from their windowless room, Dante had insisted on keeping routines normal. Children sense fear, he'd said. If you panic, he'll panic. So now Mia stood outside Lincoln Elementary School at 3:15 p.m., wearing yesterday's clothes and a fake smile, waiting with the other parents for dismissal. Dante had wanted to pull Leo out, hide him away, but Mia had fought back. He's 6 years old, she'd argued. You want him to know something's wrong? The second we disrupt his life, he'll ask questions we can't answer. Dante had relented, but only with conditions. 2 black SUVs were parked within view. The construction worker, across the street, was one of Dante's men. The woman pushing a stroller near the playground, also Dante's. And somewhere hidden, Dante himself watched from a rooftop 3 buildings away, with a rifle scope. Mia's son was surrounded by an invisible army. The school doors burst open, and children poured out like a flood. Mia spotted Leo immediately. His Spider-Man backpack was unmistakable. He was talking animatedly to another boy, his hands gesturing wildly as he told some story. Her heart clenched. He looked so normal, so happy. Mom. Leo broke away from his friend and ran to her, crashing into her legs with a hug. Guess what? I got 100 on my spelling test. Mrs. Martinez put a star sticker on it and everything. Mia crouched down, pulling him close. He smelled like crayons and playground dust. That's amazing, baby. I'm so proud of you. And guess what else? Leo's eyes were bright with excitement. Some really nice men gave me a present at recess. Mia's blood froze. What men, Leo? I dunno. They were wearing suits. Like the guys on TV who work in offices, Leo shrugged, already losing interest. He dug into his backpack and pulled out a small box wrapped in red paper. They said it was for being such a good student. Can I open it? Mia snatched the box from his hands so fast that Leo stepped back, confused. Mom, who gave this to you? Mia's voice was too sharp. She forced herself to breathe. Leo, baby, I need you to tell me exactly what they look like. I don't know.
Just normal guys.
One had black hair. Leo's lip trembled. Did I do something wrong? They said it was okay. You didn't do anything wrong. Mia pulled him close again, her mind racing. She scanned the area. The construction worker was already moving toward them. One of the SUV's doors opened. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Get him to the car.
Now. Dante.
Come on, sweetie. Mia took Leo's hand, abandoning the casual pickup routine. We're going for a ride. But I wanted to play at the park. Not today. The walk to the SUV felt like miles. Leo chattered nervously, sensing her tension but not understanding it. When they reached the vehicle, the door was already open. A woman in a blazer smiled warmly at Leo. Hey there. Your mom told me all about your spelling test. High five. Leo, easily distracted, slapped her hand and climbed into the car. Mia followed, clutching the wrapped box like it might explode. It might. The woman, Mia remembered Dante calling her Rosa, pulled smoothly into traffic. Her eyes constantly checked the mirrors. Mr. Vieri wants you at the safe house. 20 minutes. Leo pressed his face against the window. Where are we going? This isn't the way home.
We're
visiting a friend of mine. Mia improvised. He has a really big house. You'll like it. Does he have video games? Despite everything, Mia almost smiled. Probably. Leo settled back, content. Then he noticed the box in Mia's lap. Can I open my present now? Not yet, baby. But Mom. Leo, her tone left no room for argument. Not yet. The safe house was actually a penthouse in a building Dante owned. 37th floor, bulletproof windows, armed guards disguised as maintenance staff. Mia carried Leo inside, the box burning in her other hand. Dante was already there, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows with his phone to his ear. When he saw them, he ended the call immediately. "The box," he said without preamble. Mia handed it to him. Leo watched with wide eyes as Dante carried it to the kitchen counter, handling it like a live grenade. "Whoa," Leo breathed. "Is that guy a spy?" "Something like that," Mia murmured. Dante pulled on gloves, when had he gotten gloves, and carefully unwrapped the package. Inside was a small wooden box, ornately carved. Beautiful, actually. He opened it with infinite care. Inside was a gold pocket watch. Dante stared at it for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he picked it up, turned it over. On the back was an engraving, "For the last Vieri." "Is it a bomb?" Mia whispered, pulling Leo behind her. "No," Dante's voice was flat. "It's a message." He opened the watch. Inside, where the clockwork should be, was a photograph. A picture of Leo on the playground, taken today, his face circled in red ink.
Mia è Sini's weekend.
"Cool watch," Leo said, trying to peek around his mother. "Can I see?" "No," Dante snapped the watch shut. His jaw was tight, a muscle twitching. "Rosa, take the boy to the game room."
Now.
"But I want to see." "Leo, go with the nice lady," Mia's voice shook.
Please, baby.
"I'll be there in a minute." Leo's face crumpled, but he let Rosa lead him away. The moment the door closed, Mia turned to Dante. "They got to him," she said, her voice breaking. "They were that close to my son, and I didn't even know." "This was a test," Dante said quietly. He was staring at the watch like it might contain answers. "They wanted to see our response time, see how close they could get." They got close enough to hand him a gift. Mia's hands shook. What if it had been a bomb? What if they'd just taken him right there? "They won't," Dante set the watch down carefully. "Not yet. This is psychological warfare. They're showing us they can reach him whenever they want. Then what do we do?" Dante looked at her, and his eyes were cold fire. "We show them reaching him means dying." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Vincent, I need surveillance footage from Lincoln Elementary, today between noon and 3. Every camera within 2 blocks," he paused. "And put a bounty out. 50,000 for the identity of any Calabrese soldier who approached the school today. 100,000 if they're brought to me alive." He hung up, turned to Mia. "Your son doesn't leave this building until I say so," he said. "No school. No park. No exceptions. He's going to ask questions? Then answer them." Dante's voice softened slightly. "Or I will. But either way, Mia, the time for keeping him innocent is over. They've made their move." Mia looked toward the game room, where she could hear Leo's muffled laughter as Rosa set up some video game. He had no idea his childhood had just ended. 3 days of captivity, though Dante called it protective custody, had turned Leo from a curious child into a restless prisoner. "I want to go home," he said for the 100th time, standing at the penthouse window with his face pressed against the glass. Below, the city glittered like a circuit board. "Why can't we go home?" Mia sat on the couch, exhaustion seeping into her bones. "I told you, baby. Our apartment is being fixed. There's a pipe problem." "For 3 whole days?" Leo turned to her, and she saw Luca in his eyes, that sharp intelligence that missed nothing. "Mom, you're lying."
Lao.
"You're lying, and that man keeps walking around with a gun, and nobody will tell me what's happening." His voice rose, tears threatening. "I want to go home. I want my own bed. I want Mrs. Chun and my toys and—" The lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the penthouse. Mia was on her feet instantly, reaching for Leo. Her hands found his shoulders in the blackness. "Mom."
His voice was small now, scared.
"It's okay, baby. Just stay." Emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in dim red. And in that crimson glow, Mia saw Dante emerge from his office, gun already drawn. "Get away from the windows," he said, his voice deadly calm.
Now.
Mia pulled Leo toward the center of the room. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "What's happening?" "Power's out for the entire block." Dante was already moving, checking his phone. "That's not an accident." A crash came from the kitchen, glass shattering. Dante spun toward the sound, raising his gun.
Rosa.
Vincent. No answer. Where are your guards? Mia whispered, clutching Leo to her chest. He was trembling, his face buried in her shoulder. They should be here, Dante's jaw tightened. He pressed something on his watch. Backup is 3 minutes out. We just need to. The elevator dinged.
Impossible.
The elevator required a keycard. Only Dante's people had access. The door slid open, and 3 men stepped out. They wore black tactical gear, faces covered with masks. One carried a tranquilizer rifle. They weren't here to kill. They were here to take Leo. Get behind me, Dante ordered. He fired twice, precise shots that dropped the first man instantly. The other two dove for cover behind the kitchen counter.
Mom, I'm scared.
Leo was crying now, his small body shaking.
Close your eyes, baby.
Don't look. Don't look. Mia crawled backward, dragging Leo with her, heading for the hallway. Maybe they could reach the panic room Dante had shown her on the first day. More gunfire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Dante moved like liquid, taking cover behind the couch, returning fire with calculated precision. One of the masked men fell, but the third circled around, cutting off Mia's escape to the hallway. He raised the tranquilizer rifle, aiming at Leo. Mia didn't think. She threw herself in front of her son just as the dart fired. It hit her in the shoulder, a sharp sting followed by immediate cold spreading through her veins. The world tilted sideways. Mom. Leo's scream was distant underwater. Mia collapsed, her limbs going numb. She could see everything but couldn't move. The masked man stepped closer to Leo, reaching down. Dante appeared behind him like a nightmare made flesh. He grabbed the man by the throat and slammed him into the wall with such force that the drywall cracked. Once, twice, 3 times. The man went limp. Dante dropped him and ran to Leo, who was frozen with terror. Are you hurt? Dante checked him frantically, hands running over Leo's arms, his head. Did they touch you? Did anything? My mom, Leo sobbed. Something's wrong with my mom. Dante looked at Mia on the floor, saw the dart in her shoulder. His expression darkened. He scooped Leo up with one arm and crouched beside Mia with the other. Can you hear me? He asked. Mia's lips moved, but no sound came out. The drug was pulling her under, drowning her in cotton. It's just a sedative. You'll be fine. Dante's voice was tight. Stay with me, Mia. Stay. The window exploded. Not from gunfire. From something else. A rope, rappelling equipment. Someone was coming in from outside. 37 floors up. Cristo, Dante breathed. He stood, holding Leo against his chest. The boy was screaming, hands over his ears, traumatized beyond comprehension. 2 more figures swung through the shattered window, landing in a crouch. Professional. Military trained. Dante backed toward the panic room, but they were too far away. He wouldn't make it. So, he did something Mia, even in her drugged state, never expected. He set Leo down gently and stepped between the boy and the attackers. You want him? Dante's voice was cold. You go through me first. The first attacker rushed forward. Dante met him head-on, brutal and efficient. A strike to the throat. Knee to the gut. A twist that sent the man crashing through the coffee table. The second attacker pulled a knife. Uncle. The word stopped everyone. Leo had never called Dante that before. Had never called him anything. But in his terror, in his desperate need for protection, the word had slipped out. Uncle. Dante's head turned. Just for a second. Just long enough. The knife wielder lunged. Dante twisted, but not fast enough. The blade caught his side, slicing through his suit jacket, drawing blood. He didn't scream. Didn't even flinch. He just grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it until bones cracked, and drove his forehead into the attacker's nose. Once.
Twice.
The man dropped. Then Dante stumbled, hand going to his bleeding side. Stay down. He growled at the unconscious men. Stay. The elevator dinged again. Dante raised his gun with a shaking hand, but his vision was blurring. Blood seeped between his fingers. The doors opened. 6 men poured out, guns raised, but these ones wore suits.
Dante's men.
Finally. Secure the floor, Dante ordered, his voice weaker now. Get medical. And someone get the boy away from. His legs gave out. He caught himself on the wall, sliding down slowly. Leo ran to him. This 6-year-old child, who just watched his world explode into violence, ran to the bleeding Mafia boss and wrapped his small arms around him. Don't die, Leo sobbed into Dante's shoulder. Please don't die like my dad. Please. Dante's hand came up, trembling, and touched Leo's head. The gesture was gentle, almost tender. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered. I promised your father. I don't break promises. Mia watched from the floor, unable to move, unable to help. The last thing she saw before the darkness took her was Dante holding her son, blood spreading across his white shirt, while armed men secured the penthouse and sirens wailed in the distance. The war had come to them, and they had barely survived the first battle. Mia woke to the smell of pine trees and wood smoke. Her shoulder ached where the dart had hit. Her head felt stuffed with cotton. But she was alive, and the bed beneath her was soft, too soft. She forced her eyes open. The room was enormous. Log walls, cathedral ceilings, a stone fireplace crackling with real fire. Through massive windows, she could see endless forests stretching toward mountains. This wasn't the penthouse. Leo, she croaked, trying to sit up. Her body protested, muscles weak from the sedative. He's safe. Dante stood by the window, silhouetted against morning light. He'd changed clothes, now wearing a simple black sweater and jeans. But she could see the bulk of bandages beneath the fabric, the way he held himself carefully on his left side. Where are we? Mia managed to swing her legs off the bed. She was still in yesterday's clothes. Upstate. 3 hours from the city, Dante turned to face her. In the daylight, he looked tired. Human. It's my personal safe house. Only 5 people in the world know it exists. Now 6-inch. How long was I out? 16 hours. The sedative was strong but clean. No permanent damage. He moved to a chair near the bed, lowering himself with visible pain. Leo's been asking for you every 20 minutes. Mia's heart clenched. Where is he? Kitchen. Rosa's making him pancakes. Dante paused, choosing his words carefully. He's handling it better than expected. Children are resilient. He called you uncle. Mia's voice was soft. In the penthouse. When you were bleeding. He called you uncle. Something flickered across Dante's face. I heard. You almost died protecting him. I told you I would. Dante met her eyes. I told you I'd burn the city down before I let them take him. I meant it. Mia stood on shaking legs and walked to him. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the fine lines around his eyes that came from years of violence and vigilance. How bad is the injury? She asked. 6 stitches. I've had worse. He tried to wave it off, but she saw him wince. Let me see.
Mia.
You saved my son's life. Let me see. After a moment, Dante lifted his sweater. Beneath was a bandage wrapped around his torso, already spotted with blood. The knife had carved a line along his ribs, not deep enough to be fatal, but deep enough to hurt. Mia's hands trembled as she checked the bandage.
You need to rest.
You're still bleeding. I'll rest when this is over, but he didn't stop her when she adjusted the wrapping, her fingers gentle against his skin. For a moment, they were just 2 people, not a mafia boss and a single mom, but 2 human beings bound by grief and fear, and a child who deserved better than both of them. Why did you really bring me here? Mia asked quietly.
The truth, Dante.
Not the strategic answer.
He was silent for a long time.
Then, can I show you something? He stood carefully and led her down a hallway. The safe house was beautiful in a rustic way, all natural wood and stone, with art on the walls and books on shelves. It felt lived in.
Loved.
Dante stopped at a door. Luca and I bought this place together. 10 years ago, before everything fell apart.
It was supposed to be our escape.
Somewhere we could be brothers instead of soldiers. He opened the door. The room inside was frozen in time. A young man's bedroom, posters of soccer teams on the walls, trophies on shelves, a guitar in the corner. And on the desk, a photograph of two boys, maybe 8 and 10 years old, grinning at the camera with missing teeth and messy hair. Dante and Luca. He loved it here, Dante said softly. Every summer, we'd come up for a week.
No phones.
No business. Just us fishing and drinking too much and pretending we were normal. Mia touched the photograph. Young Dante had the same intense eyes, but his smile was real. Unguarded. The last time we came here, Luca told me about you. Dante's voice was rough. He was terrified. Said he'd met a woman who made him want to be better. Who made him believe he could leave all this behind. He laughed bitterly. I called him a fool. Said love was a weakness that would get him killed. You were right, Mia whispered.
No.
I was wrong. Dante turned to her, and his eyes were wet. Love didn't kill him. I did. Because I refused to help him run. Because I couldn't imagine this family without him. Because I was selfish and arrogant, and... His voice broke. Mia had never seen him like this. Vulnerable.
Human.
Broken. He paid for my sins, Mia. And now his son is paying for mine. Dante wiped his eyes roughly. After he died, I made a choice. I kept you at a distance because I thought ignorance would protect you. I thought if you never knew the truth, the Vieri name couldn't touch you.
But it did anyway, Mia said. Yes.
Because blood always tells. He looked at her. I've been protecting Leo his whole life, but from a distance. Paying your bills, watching from shadows. I told myself it was enough. That I was honoring Luca's memory. And now I realize Luca didn't want Leo protected from a distance. Dante's jaw tightened. He wanted him loved.
Raised.
Given the childhood we never had.
Mia si throat tightened.
You can't give him that. You're a mafia boss. Your world is violence, and... I know what I am. Dante's voice was firm. But I'm also his uncle. His family. And maybe I can be more than what I was. Before Mia could respond, small footsteps thundered down the hallway. Mom. Leo burst into the room, syrup on his face and joy in his eyes. He crashed into Mia's legs, hugging her fiercely. You're awake. Rosa said you were sleeping, but I knew you'd wake up, and I had pancakes, and there's a lake outside, and... He paused, looking up at her. Are you okay? Those bad men. They hurt you. Mia crouched down, pulling him close. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay, because you were so brave. Leo pulled back, his expression serious. Uncle Dante got hurt too. Because of me. Not because of you, Dante said, kneeling beside them despite his injury. Because I wanted to protect you. There's a difference. Leo looked between them, his 6-year-old brain trying to process trauma he shouldn't understand. Are the bad men coming back? Mia opened her mouth, but Dante spoke first. Yes, he said simply. They'll come back. But so will I. Every time. As many times as it takes. Promise. Leo's voice was small. Dante held out his hand. Leo took it, his small fingers disappearing in Dante's scarred palm. I promise, Dante said. On your father's memory. On everything I am. I will keep you safe. Leo studied him for a moment, then nodded. 6 years old, and already learning to trust killers because they were honest. Okay, Leo said. Then, shyly. Can I still call you uncle? Something cracked in Dante's expression. He pulled Leo into a gentle hug, careful of his injury. You can call me whatever you want, he whispered. And watching them, this dangerous man and this innocent child, bound by blood and tragedy, Mia realized something terrifying. She was starting to trust Dante Vieri. Not because he was safe, but because he was the only one who understood what they'd all lost. The lake was glass smooth in the early morning light. Mia watched from the deck as Dante taught Leo how to skip stones. Her son's laughter carried across the water, pure and untroubled. For a moment, She could almost forget the armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Almost forget the bulletproof SUVs hidden in the garage. Almost forget they were hiding from people who wanted her child dead. Almost. 7 skips. Leo shouted, jumping up and down. Did you see, Mom? 7. I saw. Baby, she called back, forcing brightness into her voice. Dante ruffled Leo's hair, showing him how to angle his wrist differently. The gesture was natural now, comfortable. In the 3 days since they'd arrived at the safe house, something had shifted. Dante no longer held himself apart, no longer treated Leo like a fragile asset to be protected. He treated him like family. Again, Dante said, handing Leo another flat stone. Remember, it's all in the release. Leo tried again. The stone bounced 4 times before sinking. He groaned dramatically. I'll never be as good as you. Your father was better than me, Dante said quietly. When we were kids, he could get 12 skips. I never beat his record. Leo's eyes went wide. Really?
My dad could do that.
Your dad could do a lot of things. Dante's voice was soft. He was braver than me.
Kinder than me.
The best man I ever knew. But he died. Leo's joy dimmed. Before I was born.
Yes.
But he loved you before he ever met you. Dante crouched down to Leo's level. Every day, he'd talk about you. About teaching you to fish, to play soccer, to skip stones. He had so many plans. Do you have plans? Leo asked. For me? The question hung in the air. Mia tensed, wondering how Dante would answer. I have one plan, Dante said finally. To make sure you grow up. Everything else, what you become, what you choose, that's up to you. What if I want to be like you? Mia's heart stopped. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then I tell you to choose something better. But you're cool. You have guns and people who do what you say, and I can't walk down a street without wondering who wants to kill me, Dante interrupted gently. I can't have friends, Leo. Can't trust anyone. Can't love without putting them in danger. He touched Leo's shoulder. Your father left this life because he wanted better for you. Don't throw that gift away. Leo considered this with the seriousness only children can manage. What if the bad men keep coming? What if I need to learn how to fight? Dante glanced at Mia. She saw the question in his eyes, asking permission. She nodded slowly. Then I'll teach you, Dante said. Not to be like me, but to protect yourself. To be smart and strong and ready. He stood. Come on, I'll show you some basics. They moved to the lawn, where Dante began demonstrating simple self-defense moves. How to break a grip. Where to strike if someone grabs you. How to run efficiently, because running was always the smartest option. Leo absorbed it all with intense focus, mimicking Dante's movements. He was clumsy, uncoordinated, but determined. Good, Dante said when Leo successfully broke free from a gentle hold. Again, you need to do it without thinking. They practiced for an hour. Mia watched, her emotions tangled. She hated that her son needed this knowledge. Hated that at 6 years old, he was learning how to escape kidnappers. But she also felt something else. Gratitude. Because Dante was giving Leo what Luca never could. Protection, knowledge, and a future. When they finally stopped, Leo was sweating and grinning. Can we do this every day? Every day, Dante agreed. Until you can beat me. I'm 6. That'll take forever. Then I guess we have time. Dante's expression softened. Go wash up. Rosa made lunch. Leo ran toward the house, full of endless energy. Dante stood slowly, wincing as his injury pulled. Mia approached him. Thank you. For being honest with him. I won't lie to him, Dante said. He deserves the truth. Even the ugly parts. Especially those. Dante looked at her. He's smart, Mia. Smarter than either of us at his age. If we try to shelter him with lies, he'll just fill in the blanks with something worse. They walked back to the house together. The safe house had become familiar over the past few days. The creak of the floorboards, the smell of Rosa's cooking, the way sunlight filtered through the trees. It felt almost like home. I've been thinking, Mia said as they reached the deck. About what happens next. We can't stay here forever. No, Dante agreed. But we can stay here long enough. Long enough for what? He was quiet, watching Leo through the kitchen window. The boy was talking animatedly to Rosa, probably recounting his stone-skipping victory. Long enough for me to dismantle everything, Dante said finally. Mia stared at him. What? The family. The empire. All of it. His voice was calm, decided. It's the only way to keep him safe. As long as the Vieri name means power, Leo will be a target. But if there's no power to inherit, you'd give up everything? Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Your entire life's work. It was never my life's work. It was my father's. And his father's before him. Dante's jaw tightened. I inherited an empire built on blood. Maybe it's time to let it die with me. The council will never allow it. Those men at the meeting don't need to allow anything. Dante's eyes were hard. I built this empire into what it is today. I can tear it down just as easily. And what about you? What happens to you when it's all gone? He looked at her, and for the first time since they met, she saw something in his expression that wasn't control or calculation. It was hope. Maybe I get to find out who Dante Vieri is without the crown, he said quietly. Maybe I get to be just an uncle. Just a man trying to keep a promise to his brother. Inside, Leo laughed at something Rosa said. The sound was light, unburdened. He looks like him, Dante said suddenly. When he laughs. It's exactly how Luca laughed. Mia saw it too. The way Leo's whole face lit up, the crinkles around his eyes. Luca's ghost, living in their son. I see it every day, she whispered. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it helps. I never got to say goodbye, Dante said. He was gone before I could tell him I was wrong. That he should run. That I'd help him disappear, his hands clenched. I never got to tell him I was sorry. Mia touched his arm. Then tell Leo. Tell him the stories. Keep Luca alive in him. Dante looked at her, and something passed between them. Understanding. Shared grief. And underneath it all, the fragile beginning of something else. Luca loved you very much, Dante said softly. He told me once that you saved him. That before you, he was just going through motions. But you gave him purpose.
He gave me Leo, Mia replied.
That's more than purpose. That's everything. Through the window, Leo had climbed onto a chair to reach something on a high shelf. Rosa steadied him, patient and watchful. He'll need more than just us, Mia said. He'll need a normal life. School, friends, birthday parties. All the things we can't give him while hiding. I know, Dante's voice was firm. That's why I'm ending this. All of it. Within 2 weeks, the Vieri Empire will be history. 2 weeks. Mia's eyes widened. Is that even possible? It has to be. Dante turned to her. Because in 2 weeks, Leo turned 7. And I promised myself he'd blow out those candles as a free boy. Not a target. Not an heir. Just a kid celebrating his birthday.
Mia's throat tightened.
She'd almost forgotten about Leo's birthday with everything happening. He wants a superhero party, she said quietly. With a Spider-Man cake. Then he'll have one. Dante's expression was iron. I'll burn every bridge, break every alliance, and destroy everything I've built, if that's what it takes. Your son will have his party. Our nephew, Mia corrected softly. Dante looked at her in surprise. You're his uncle, she continued. His family. That makes us, she searched for the right word. Connected. Whether we want to be or not. A smile ghosted across Dante's face. Real and unguarded. Connected, he repeated. I can live with that. Inside, Leo called for them.
Mom.
Uncle Dante. Lunch is ready. They went inside together, into the warmth and light, leaving the shadows behind. For now, at least, they were safe. But the clock was ticking. The call came at 2 a.m. Dante was in his office, surrounded by papers, transfer documents, shell company agreements, offshore account details. The machinery of dismantling an empire was complex, tedious work that required precision. One mistake and the vultures would descend, tearing apart what was left. He answered on the first ring. Talk. We found him. Vincent's voice was tight.
The leak.
You're not going to like this. Dante's hand tightened on the phone. Who?
Marco.
The name hit like a physical blow.
Marco Rossetti.
Silver-haired Marco, who'd been with the family for 30 years. Who'd stood beside Dante's father at his funeral. Who'd taught a young Dante how to negotiate, how to read people, how to survive. Marco, who'd questioned keeping Leo alive at the council meeting. You're certain? Dante's voice was deadly calm. Phone records. Bank transfers. He's been feeding information to the Calabrese family for 6 months. Locations, guard rotations, everything. Vincent paused. The hit on the penthouse? He gave them the security codes. Dante closed his eyes. Betrayal was common in his world, expected, even. But this one cut deep. Marco had been more than a lieutenant. He'd been almost family. Where is he now? The warehouse on Pier 12. We grabbed him an hour ago. Quiet, clean. Nobody knows.
Keep it that way.
I'm coming down. Dante stood, his injury pulling with sharp pain. The stitches weren't fully healed, but this couldn't wait. He grabbed his jacket and gun. In the hallway, he nearly collided with Mia. She was in pajamas, hair messy from sleep. I heard you on the phone. What's wrong? Nothing. Go back to bed. Don't lie to me. Her voice was firm. We're past that now. What happened? Dante studied her. In the dim light, she looked younger, vulnerable. But her eyes were steel. We found the traitor, he said finally. Someone in my organization sold us out. I need to handle it. Handle it how? The question hung between them. Mia wasn't stupid. She knew what handle it meant in Dante's world. How I have to, he said quietly. You're going to kill him. It wasn't a question. Dante didn't answer, which was answer enough. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. And if Leo asks where you went, what do I tell him? Tell him I had work. Tell him I'll be back by breakfast. Dante moved past her. Lock the door behind me. Rosa and the guards are here. You're safe. That's not what I'm worried about. He stopped, turned back. I'm worried about you, Mia said softly. About what this life costs you. What it's already cost. Something in Dante's chest tightened. No one had worried about him in years.
Feared him, yes.
Respected him, certainly. But worried. I'll be fine, he said. I always am. He left before she could argue. The warehouse smelled like salt water and rust. Pier 12 was abandoned, scheduled for demolition, the perfect place for conversations that couldn't happen. Marco sat tied to a metal chair in the center of the empty space, illuminated by a single hanging bulb. His silver hair was matted with sweat. His expensive suit was rumpled, torn at the shoulder. 4 of Dante's men stood guard in the shadows. Vincent stood closest, arms crossed. Dante's footsteps echoed as he approached. Marco looked up, and for a moment, something like shame crossed his face.
Dante.
I can explain. Can you? Dante's voice was soft. Dangerous. Can you explain why you sold out my family? Why you gave the Calabrese access to a 6-year-old child? It wasn't supposed to go that far. Marco's voice cracked. I just gave them information. I didn't know they'd actually try to take the boy. You gave them everything. Dante circled him slowly. Security codes. Guard schedules. You told them about the penthouse. About Leo. He stopped in front of Marco. You almost got them killed. They were going to kill me.
Marcos Chautid.
The Calabrese found out I skimmed money 10 years ago. They had proof, Dante. They said they'd expose me, destroy my family, unless I cooperated. So you destroyed mine instead. The words landed like stones.
Marco Flinched.
I didn't have a choice, he whispered. My daughter just had twins. My son is in medical school. If the family knew I'd been stealing. I knew. Marco's head snapped up. What? I've known about the skimming for years, Dante said calmly. 30,000 over a decade. I let it go because you had grandchildren to support. Because you'd been loyal when it mattered. Marco's face crumbled. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I trusted you to come to me if there was a problem. Dante's voice hardened. Instead, you endangered a child. My brother's son. I'm sorry. Tears streamed down Marco's weathered face. Cristo. Dante, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. I never. Where's the Calabrese base of operations? Marco blinked, confused by the sudden shift. What? Their headquarters. Where they plan their moves. Where they're keeping information about Leo. Dante crouched to eye level. Tell me, and this ends quickly. Marco's eyes widened with understanding. With hope. The old brewery in Red Hook. 3rd floor. They think it's secure because it's abandoned. How many men? 12 usually. More at night. What else do they know about Leo?
Marco hesitated.
Dante pulled his gun, pressed it to Marco's knee. Everything.
Marco gasped.
They know about the safe house. Not the location, but that he's been moved. They're planning another attempt. Bigger this time. They want to draw you out. When? I don't know.
Soon.
They're getting impatient. Dante stood, processing this. The Calabrese were escalating. Time was running out faster than he'd thought. Vincent, he said quietly, make the calls. I want 50 men ready to move on Red Hook tomorrow night. We're ending this. Yes, sir. Dante looked down at Marco. The old man was shaking, tears and sweat mixing on his face. Please, Marco whispered. My family, they don't deserve. Your family will be taken care of, Dante interrupted. Your daughter's children will have trust funds. Your son's medical school will be paid for. They'll never know what you did. Relief flooded Marco's face. Thank you, Dante, But you're still going to die. The relief vanished, replaced by terror. No, wait. I told you everything. You endangered a child, Marco. My blood. There's no coming back from that. Dante's voice was empty. Final. But because of what you once were, I'll make it quick. You won't suffer. Dante, please. Vincent. Clean shot. Then dispose of everything quietly. His family thinks he's in Florida on business. Let them keep thinking that. Dante turned and walked away, Marco's pleas echoing behind him. He was halfway to the door when the gunshot rang out. Single.
Clean.
Merciful. The pleas stopped. Dante didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cold. The city glittered across the water, indifferent to the violence in its shadows. Dante leaned against his car, suddenly exhausted. He'd killed before. Many times. But it never got easier when it was someone he'd known. Someone who'd been family. His phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Leo had a nightmare. Asked for you. Dante stared at the message. Inside that warehouse, a man lay dead by his order. And at the safe house, a child waited for him. The same child Marco's betrayal had nearly killed. 2 worlds. Impossible to bridge. But he had to try. He typed back, on my way. Tell him I'm bringing donuts. The response was immediate. Chocolate or glazed?
Both.
He's earned it. Dante got in the car and drove north, leaving the blood and betrayal behind. But Marco's last words haunted him. My family. They don't deserve this. Neither did Leo. Neither did Mia. But they were stuck in Dante's world anyway, paying for sins that weren't theirs. 2 weeks, he'd promised. 2 weeks to dismantle everything. Now he had one less person to worry about opposing him. But the price kept getting higher. And Dante wondered, as the city lights faded in his rearview mirror, if he'd have anything left of himself when this was over. If the man who survived would be worth saving. The raid on Red Hook happened at dawn. 50 men. 6 entry points. 12 minutes from breach to surrender. The Calabrese family's operations center was gutted, their soldiers captured or scattered, their plans for Leo seized and burned. Dante had stood in the center of the brewery's 3rd floor, watching his men work with mechanical efficiency. No unnecessary violence. No collateral damage. Just cold, calculated dismantling. The Calabrese underboss, a man named Johnny, had been dragged before him, bleeding from a split lip. You can't do this, Johnny had spat. This is neutral territory. You're violating the accords. There are no accords anymore. Dante's voice had been empty. As of this morning, the Vieri family is dissolving. In 3 days, I'll have no territory, no soldiers, no power. He leaned close. So you should ask yourself, what does a man with nothing left to lose look like when you threaten his family? Johnny's eyes had widened with understanding, with fear. Go back to your bosses, Dante had continued. Tell them the Vieri heir is dead, killed in the penthouse attack. Tell them the bloodline ends. Tell them there's nothing left to fight for. They'll want proof. I'll give them proof, Dante had straightened. And if they ever come near that boy again, I won't need an empire to destroy them. I'll do it myself.
Personally.
Do you understand? Johnny had nodded frantically. They'd released him an hour later, sending a message that would ripple through every crime family in the city. The Vieri War was over. The heir was gone. The empire was finished. All that was left was selling the lie. Now, 5 days later, Dante stood in a courthouse in Lower Manhattan, signing documents that undid 3 generations of power. Legitimate businesses, restaurants, shipping companies, construction firms, were transferred to a carefully selected successor, a man named Anthony Greco who'd been loyal but unambitious. Someone who could hold what remained without trying to rebuild the empire. The illegitimate operations, gambling, protection, the darker trades, were simply dissolved. Contracts canceled. Territories abandoned. Money distributed to soldiers as severance, with enough to keep them quiet. The Vieri family's offshore accounts, hundreds of millions of dollars, were funneled through a maze of shell corporations and finally deposited into trust funds. For Leo, for his education, his future, his freedom, Dante kept almost nothing for himself. A modest trust. The safe house. Enough to live quietly. Everything else burned. His lawyer, an ancient man named Sal who'd served the family for 40 years, watched with watery eyes as Dante signed the final document. Your father would be rolling in his grave, Sal said quietly. Good, Dante set down the pen. Maybe he'll finally understand what this life costs. And you? What will you do? Dante had thought about this question every day for the past week. Who was he without the empire? Without the fear and respect and power that had defined him since he was 20 years old? I'll figure it out, he said finally. Sal nodded slowly. For what it's worth, sir, I think you're doing the right thing. The boy deserves better. He deserves everything we never had. Outside the courthouse, Vincent was waiting by the car. He looked uncomfortable in civilian clothes, a simple jacket instead of his usual suit. Most of Dante's inner circle had already scattered, taking their severance and disappearing into legitimate lives. Vincent was one of the last. It's done, Dante said. Anthony takes over officially tomorrow. The transition's complete. And the Calabrese? Vincent asked, buying the story. As far as they know, Leo Alvarez died in the penthouse attack. Mia's been relocated under witness protection. The Vieri name is history. Dante looked at his lieutenant, his former lieutenant. They'll chase ghosts for a while, but eventually they'll move on. There's no profit in hunting dead men. Vincent was quiet for a moment. I got an offer. Security consulting in Seattle. Legitimate work. Good pay. Take it. You sure? I could stay, help you. There's nothing left to help with, Dante extended his hand. You served the family well, Vincent. Go live your life. That's an order. Vincent shook his hand, his grip firm. It was an honor, sir.
Dante.
Just Dante now. Vincent smiled faintly. Old habits, he turned to go, then stopped. The boy's lucky. Having you. I'm lucky having him, Dante replied quietly. He gave me a reason to be better than I was. Vincent nodded and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of ordinary people living ordinary lives. Dante stood alone on the courthouse steps, watching the city move around him. He'd controlled this city once, ruled it from the shadows. Now, he was just another face in the crowd. It felt like drowning and flying at the same time. His phone buzzed. A message from Mia. Leo wants to know if you're coming to his birthday party planning meeting. Apparently, there are critical decisions about cake flavors. Dante smiled, a real smile, unguarded and genuine. He typed back, "On my way. Tell him I vote chocolate. He says chocolate is baby cake. He wants red velvet with cream cheese frosting. Then red velvet it is. I'll be there in 2 hours." Dante got in his car, a modest sedan now, not the armored Mercedes, and started the long drive upstate. As the city faded behind him, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 20 years.
Peace.
Not the temporary peace of a won battle or a silenced enemy. Real peace. The kind that came from knowing, for the first time in his life, that he was doing exactly what he was meant to do. The highway stretched ahead, cutting through forest and mountains. Somewhere at the end of that road was a safe house that had become a home. A woman who'd learned to trust him despite every reason not to. A boy who called him uncle and looked at him like he hung the moon. His empire was gone. His power dissolved. His name would fade from memory within a generation. But Leo would grow up free. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. The crown had been heavy. Letting it go felt like learning to breathe again. Dante drove faster, eager to get home, to argue about cake flavors and debate superhero party decorations and be, for just a moment, nothing more than a man who'd made a promise and kept it. The city fell away completely, replaced by open road and endless sky. Behind him, the Vieri Empire crumbled to dust. Ahead, something new waited. Something that looked suspiciously like redemption. The coastal town didn't have a name most people would recognize. It was the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, where the biggest news was the fishing tournament or the new ice cream flavor at Betty's Diner. Where crime meant teenagers spray painting the water tower, not bullets and blood. It was perfect. Mia stood on the porch of their small house, watching the sun rise over the Atlantic. The house was nothing like Dante's mansion or even a safe house, just a modest two-story with peeling blue paint and a garden that desperately needed work. But it was theirs. Bought with clean money, under new names that had no connection to Vieri or Alvarez. Here, she was Mia Sullivan. Single mom. Bookkeeper at the local library. Normal. "Mom, can I go to the beach before school?" Leo appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his uniform for Seaside Elementary. He'd grown in the past month, taller, stronger, his face losing some of its baby roundness. But his eyes still held that same bright innocence. 15 minutes, Mia said, checking her watch. "And don't get your shoes wet." Leo grinned and took off running toward the sand, his backpack bouncing. Mia watched him go, her heart full of equal parts joy and lingering fear. They'd been here 30 days. 30 days of quiet, of normal, of breathing without looking over their shoulders. But she still checked the locks twice every night. Still noticed every unfamiliar car that drove past. Still woke at 3 a.m., listening for sounds that didn't belong. Trauma didn't dissolve just because you changed locations. "He's getting faster." Mia didn't turn. She'd heard Dante's car pull up 5 minutes ago, the old Subaru he drove now, completely unremarkable. He'd parked down the street, walked the rest of the way. Old habits. "You're early," she said. "I wasn't expecting you until lunch." Couldn't sleep, Dante climbed the porch steps, holding 2 coffee cups from the diner. He handed her one. "Thought you might need this." She took it gratefully. He'd remembered how she liked it, extra cream, 1 sugar. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Leo search for shells at the water's edge. Dante came every Sunday now like clockwork. Sometimes he stayed for a few hours. Sometimes the whole day. Always as Uncle Dante, always careful to maintain the fiction that he was Mia's brother-in-law who'd moved to the area for work. The town had accepted the story without question. Everyone loved Dante. He'd helped fix Mrs. Chen's roof. Different Mrs. Chen, coincidentally. Coached Leo's soccer team, and donated generously to the community center. He was just another friendly neighbor. No one suspected he'd once commanded an empire built on fear. "Got something for him," Dante said, pulling a small wrapped box from his jacket. "Early birthday present." "His birthday was last month, Dante. You gave him a bike." "This is different," he handed it to her. "Open it." Mia unwrapped the box carefully. Inside was a pocket watch, simple, silver, with an engraving on the back, for Leo. Time is precious. Use it wisely.
Dad.
Her throat tightened. Dante. I found it in Luca's things, he said quietly. Our father gave it to him on his 16th birthday.
Luca was supposed to pass it down to his son someday, he paused.
I think someday is now. Mia traced the engraving, imagining Luca holding this same watch, making the same plans for a future he'd never see. Are you sure? This is a piece of your brother. Which makes it a piece of Leo, Dante's voice was firm. He should have something that belonged to his father. Something real. I'll give it to him today, Mia said softly. Thank you. They watched Leo chase a seagull, laughing when it flew away. He was so different from the terrified child in the penthouse. The nightmares had mostly stopped. He talked about school and friends, and whether he should join the chess club or the art class. Normal kid problems. How are you doing? Mia asked. Really? Dante considered the question. In the month since he'd dissolved the empire, he'd changed. The constant tension in his shoulders had eased. The shadows under his eyes had faded. He smiled more, real smiles, not the calculated expressions of a man who wore control like armor. I'm working at the marina, he said. Fixing boats. It's simple work.
Quiet.
Do you miss it? Mia asked carefully. The power? Sometimes he was honest, always honest with her now. I miss the certainty. Knowing my place in the world. But then I come here and watch Leo laugh, and I remember why I gave it up. He looked at her. I don't regret it, Mia. Not for a second. She believed him. Leo came running back, breathless and sandy. Uncle Dante, you're here. Did you see? I found a sand dollar. I saw. Dante crouched down, examining the shell seriously. That's a good one. Almost perfect. Can we go fishing after school? Please? You promised last week. Dante glanced at Mia, asking permission. She nodded. Fishing it is, Dante said. But first, you need to get to school. I can't catch fish if you fail math. Leo groaned dramatically, but went inside to grab his lunch. The screen door slammed behind him. Alone again, Mia turned to Dante. Stay for dinner tonight. I'm making pasta. Something flickered in his expression. Hope, maybe. You sure?
Your family, Dante.
You're always welcome here. Family, he repeated softly, testing the word. Then, quieter. Luca chose well. He always said you had the biggest heart of anyone he'd ever met. He was right. He said the same thing about you, Mia replied. He told me once that his brother seemed hard, but underneath was the most loyal person alive. That if anything ever happened to him, you'd move heaven and earth to protect what he loved. Dante's eyes were suspiciously bright. I tried. You succeeded. Mia touched his arm gently. You gave us our lives back. You gave Leo a future. That's more than protection, Dante. That's love. Before he could respond, Leo burst back out, backpack secured. Ready. Let's go before I'm late. Mia walked Leo to the bus stop, Dante trailing behind like a guardian angel in jeans and a work jacket. They waved as the yellow bus pulled away, Leo's face pressed against the window, still waving until they disappeared from sight. He's going to be okay, Dante said quietly. Better than okay. Because of you. Because of us, Dante looked at her. You're an incredible mother, Mia. Luca knew it. I know it. And someday, Leo will understand how lucky he was. They walked back to the house slowly. The morning was warming, the salt air fresh and clean. Somewhere down the street, someone was mowing their lawn. A dog barked. A car radio played oldies. The sounds of a normal life. I kept my brother's promise, Dante said as they reached the porch. Leo's safe.
Free.
He gets to choose who he becomes. And what about you? Mia asked. What do you choose now? Dante was quiet for a long moment, looking at the small house with its peeling paint and overgrown garden. At the street where children rode bikes and neighbors chatted over fences. At the life he'd bought with everything he'd once been. I choose this, he said finally. Sunday dinners and fishing trips and soccer games. I choose being Uncle Dante instead of Dante Vieri. I choose he met her eyes. I choose family. Mia smiled, and it reached all the way to her soul. Then come on, help me fix the garden before dinner. Those weeds aren't going to pull themselves. Yes, ma'am. They worked together through the morning, hands in the dirt, building something new from the ashes of what was. And when Leo came home that afternoon, bursting with stories about his day, he found his mother and his uncle laughing on the porch, dirt-stained and happy. That night, over pasta and garlic bread, Mia gave Leo the pocket watch. He held it with reverent care, asking questions about his father that Dante answered with patience and love. Later, when Leo was asleep, Dante stood to leave. Same time next Sunday, he asked at the door. Same time, Mia confirmed. Then, impulsively, she hugged him. Thank you. For keeping your brother's promise. For giving us this. Dante hugged her back, carefully, like he was still learning how. Thank you, he whispered, for letting me be part of it. He drove away into the night, back to his small apartment above the marina. Back to his quiet life of fixing boats and being nobody special. And for the first time in 40 years, Dante Vieri slept without nightmares. Behind him, a woman and a boy slept safely in a house by the sea, unburdened by the weight of a name that had once meant death. The Vieri Empire was dust. But the Vieri family, the real one, the one that mattered, was finally beautifully alive.
The end.